Hi, I'm Dave Pearce and you're watching The Dance Years, our definitive look back at the clubs, music and faces that shaped today's dance scene. Well, last week we checked out 1988, the year the Ibiza vibe first hit Britain, and London and Manchester were fighting for the title of clubbing capital of the UK. This week it's 1989, the year that the big outdoor raves really got going. Tonight, Ibiza gets some respect, I unveil the ultimate clubbing track of the year, and we'll be chilling out with the godfather of house. As well as providing us with loads of club classics, 1989 was the year of the rave, as empty warehouses and farmers' fields across the country became the setting for a new dance revolution.
We'd pull up to the rave and all you would hear even before you got out of the car was boom, 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 this bass, and you're just thinking, wicked, this is going to be a big night.
The beauty of being outside and being off your head and partying amongst the trees and outside was great.
Everyone just dancing, giving it the large, music's going mad, DJ, big sound systems, just your ears were being blown away.
I used to meet the best people, man, but the maddest people.
Oh, loon bags, really.
Oh, total loon. Everyone loved each other.
People were just so friendly, and you know, you didn't even have to be on anything, you know, you were just enjoying the music and, you know, just dancing away, and it was just such a great vibe.
I was at this rave somewhere in, you know, in the Greenbelt, and I was sitting there, it was about 5 in the morning, and this old woman came over in kind of like a velour jumpsuit with the Sunday newspapers under her arms, and she said, "Excuse me, you look like a very nice person. Would you ask them to turn it down?" I was like, I don't think that's going to happen.
You had a lot of working class kids who probably were going out raving for the first time. You had a lot of yuppies, you had a lot of the slowly it girls.
The point is, everyone came together as a community and you felt these people were your friends.
You knew them, you just couldn't remember their names.
Their names, just too messed up to remember their names, weren't they? Even the girls. Couldn't remember the girls' names either, could you?
You could just remember what they looked like from behind.
In another situation, if you put these people together, there would be fights breaking out every second, but I was seeing kind of really dodgy gangsters loved up and dancing around, and it was amazing for that alone, and the fact that black and white people were getting together and dancing on the same stage for the first time. That never happened before.
I don't think I've ever actually been to a rave. That's pretty sad, isn't it?
1989 was the year of Italian house, as almost every dance track sampled a throaty soul singer and a manic piano arrangement. How we loved those piano breakdowns. Sueno Latino achieved limited chart success but became a firm favourite. It's my number 9 of the year and I like it, so there.
Sueño Latino.
Me lo das y lo siento todo dentro de mí. Bésame.
28 Latino. It was very European, it was very housey at the same time, and it had longevity. Only last year there was a Bushwhacker remix of the tune, and it's still sounded just as fresh, still sounded just as good. And as a result, you can't help but hear the original, and it's still a great record, stands the test of time.
It's so beautiful when you play records like Sueño Latino with all the exoticness that's in it, and you know, I remember playing it. I went to the UK once and played it at Heaven. I just remember just dropping it. Everybody just turned to the booth and put their hands in the air. The light man put the lights up, and it was just, what a, I got goosebumps. What a scene. It was like, wow. You know, because I didn't get this back home.
Standing in the Vauxhall Arches and hearing that bird song and the piano just fading in, it was just a seminal moment in my clubbing history.
The music machines behind these new tunes had been rejected by serious music producers as sounding too artificial. This made them ideal for the rave generation, who rescued the likes of Roland 303, 808 and 909s from junk shops and made them essential tools of the trade.
All the sort of best house music seemed to be made by people who didn't have much money, or people who just had, access to a little bit of gear, and they were DJing and they were knocking up their own little tunes to play when they were DJing, just messing about.
You've got the Roland 808 and the Roland 909, which are both drum machines, and the Roland TV 303, which is the ultimate squelchy, acid sound.
This is the 303 bass machine, and it was originally sort of made for sort of cabaret accompaniment, but it's notoriously hard to program.
First time I heard it, my God, what the hell is this? 9 minutes of a squelchy bass thing with a 909 drum kit. I'd never heard anything like it. I mean, it just completely blew me to bits.
It's only really got 3 knobs, but boy, do they do stuff.
You can get an amazing amount of different tones, but every one of those tones sounds like a 303. Doesn't sound like any other keyboard.
I actually do pull some of those faces that like Van Halen pulls, when I'm tweaking on it.
Although we were called 808 State, we in fact used the 909 drum machine, and you either did it in step time, which is sort of just placing things in a matrix like this, as your 4/4. And then went on to the next instrument, added those in. All this early equipment, the 303, the 909, the 808, we were picking up in junk shops for like less than £100.
It meant that you could work on your own in a fucking studio without anybody having control, without having to deal with anybody, without having to deal with any kind of like big institutionalized drum kit setup nightmare.
Together with Martin Price and Gerald Simpson, Graham Massey put his music machine skills to very good use on my #8 track of the year, 808 State's Pacific State. The track stormed into the UK top 10 and also helped further in making Manchester, or Manchester as it had become known, the music capital of the UK.
State, that's another one of the records that drew people in from other areas into dance music. It's a very pivotal record. And I remember when it came out and going to Eastern Bloc, which was the record shop, and they all still worked in the record shop, and they had not all of them, but I think a couple of them were still working in the record shop while they had a top 5 hit. And we used to go in and sort of look at them and wish they'd speak to us, but we were like 16 or whatever. Little oiks. We weren't interested at all in speaking to us. We were just interested in us selling us some records.
A huge all-time favourite of mine is 808 State, Pacific State. You know, I've still been dying to drop this record in a place for a long, long time. The chords, the strings, everything just typify what was so good about that kind of 88, 89 acid house era, that record is completely overlooked as one of the most timeless classics ever. 808 State were just at their best at this point.
Well, that's it for part one, but stick around, because after the break I'll be checking out the New York house scene and continuing with my countdown of the top tunes of 1989. Hi, I'm Dave Pearce and you're watching The Dance Years. I'll look back at the origins of the dance music scene. Number 7 on my countdown for 89 is 10 City, featuring the vocal talents of a certain Mr. Byron Stingley. This deep house anthem paved the way for countless imitators over the years and was a hit on both sides of the Atlantic. More recently, Byron's had solo hits with Get Up Everybody and a cover version of Sylvester's You Make Me Feel Mighty Real. Here he is with 10 City and that tune that had the Nations Clubbers singing their hearts out. That's the way love is.
Take a vow to be together and live and love each other forever. They promise.
I'm so attached to 10 City because it's like, that was part of my coming out party, you know, in getting into the music business, period, and discovering house music there is completely essential in my being in this business.
But a young heart doesn't stay sad long. Another love so comes along.
Just inspired by watching different people going through relationships and breaking up and dealing with the emotions.
That's the way love is. That's the way love is. Two people don't get along. Deep down in both have feelings very strong.
That's the Way Love Is was written in about 20 minutes. Sometimes you'll spend all day like writing something and you'll think it's a masterpiece and nobody buys it. And then sometimes you'll do something that you'll do in 15 minutes that you think it might be a throwaway song, and that winds up being like a huge hit.
Lovers leave without reason, feelings change just like seasons.
It's quite a surprising record to write for a collection because it is a bit cheesy and it is a bit lovey, but nonetheless it is a brilliant record as well. So I will admit under duress to being a huge fan of 10 City. That's the Way Love Is, and I have got it on 12 inch.
We did the video in the UK with UK producers because we want this whole UK club scene feel. And they brought me like this big hat. And I said, okay, I'll wear it in only a few shots. And they only used the shots of me in the hat. And I hated the hat. But then it became a trademark because everywhere I went, people would show up in to our shows with the big apple hat. The first time I ate at the video shoot, they served pigeon. And I thought the guy was joking. I kept saying, no, you're joking, right? I said, no, what kind of bird is it? He kept saying pigeon. But don't worry, it's country pigeon. I had like 103 fever when I shot the video for That's the Way Love Is. I stayed at this hotel, and it was this one room where everybody gets sick in that one room. And if you look closely at the video, you'll see all the Vaseline around my lips.
The sound is so beautiful, just the whole production and just, I will never forget that. That just got me going into house music.
I think I should peep that record out and break it out and see how people actually react to it today. It's such a brilliant tune.
Going out raving back then was not the same as clubbing is today. First, you had to find the party, and then you had to get there. But in '89, it was all part of the experience.
Nobody knew where the event was until the day of. Make no mistake. Somehow, how did 20,000 people show up to this thing? I have no idea.
You never knew which part of the country you were going to end up in. You had to have a mobile phone, or if you didn't have a mobile phone, you had to get near a telephone box to phone a telephone number. And this was really exciting for everyone involved. It was almost like playing a board game, but you're actually living it and breathing it.
All we knew was we had to get on the M25 and basically get to a petrol station and then find out from there where we were going. Everything was illegal. It was so exciting.
You'd ring up a number, there'd be an answering machine, go to here, meet at this service station, there'd be some ragged little traveller telling you, right, go over there.
A lot of it was word of mouth flyers, and you'd have massive traffic jams going up and down motorways.
50, 60 cars in convoy, all parked up, waiting on their mobile phones. Remember those big mobile phones everyone used to have? Sitting there on the phone, everyone trying to find out where this rave was.
All of the people at the petrol station used to hate our guts because we used to beat horns, have our music blasting in the cars. Then everyone would go to the toilet.
Then getting in the car, everyone, and then sort of reversing, everyone making a big mess trying to get through each other.
The police were so overwhelmed because it was so cleverly and secretively done that they just all joined in and had a laugh, do you know what I mean? It was interesting, the lack of friction.
I remember just driving in the middle of nowhere. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning to get there for my set, you know, and you're seeing cows and sheep, and it's like, well, where are we going, you know?
Most of the DJs had exactly the same situation as the punters to get to these things because they had to be so underground. It was all like, a post-it note on a tree and it might have, flown away and someone else has to tell you in another car. I was in those convoys, man, because everyone was going to the same place.
Suddenly you'd be going through this country road, maybe 2 hours later, and suddenly you see these strobing lights just going like that, and it was so exciting.
And as you got closer, the bass, you could hear that bass line, dun, 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 and you just knew it was just going to go off. So your heart was going, all your mates were excited, park the car, get out as soon as you can and get in there and just do the do.
Right, we're going back to the countdown, and in at number 6 is a formal gospel singer with attitude, who together with producer Paul Simpson unleashed a string of hits in the late 80s. And the diva's still doing her stuff today. Last year, I bumped into her in glamorous Hull. That's the showbiz world we live in. Anyway, here she is, belting it out the way only she can. A diva with respect. And by the way, check out those leggings.
Like an Amazon queen of house music. She's very strong, and I know a lot of men they couldn't take her. She has a powerful voice. She was, Southern girl. She was giving you body, beautiful black soul makusa, So she was hot.
I ain't gonna do you wrong while you're gone. I ain't gonna do you wrong because I don't want to. All I'm asking for is a little respect. Respect me, hi, hi. Respect me.
Respect me, hi, hi, hi. Just a little bit respect. I loved that song. It was wicked.
I'm out to give you all of my money, but all I'm asking in return, honey, is you give me my proper respect. When you come home, bring it to me, give it to me, sugar when you come on. Respect me, woo, 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 woo.
Her voice in that song just kind of said, I am here, I am woman, hear me roar, you know, don't with me. It's like very clear, you know what I'm saying? Her power and her skill just blew me over, and especially in my fledgling state back in those days when I was really just learning this whole game.
Respect, break it down. Respect me, baby, when we're all alone. Respect me, sugar, when you come home. Respect me, baby, when you know it's all so good. Respect me, baby, like I know you could. Respect me, respect me, respect me. Gotta have a little bit, just a little bit. I need a little bit. Respect, gotta have a little bit, just a little bit. I need a little bit. Respect.
Of course, the raves didn't organise themselves. Coordinating a party in the middle of nowhere by word of mouth alone required a new breed of promoter.
I guess the main influence for Fantasia was based on going to a lot of the big towns in the south of Spain and seeing these amazing, massive open-air clubs, 6,000 to 8,000 people. So when we came back into London, on the way back, just got off the ferry at 7 in the morning, we ended up seeing all these people in these service stations, and we're like, what are they doing up at this time in the morning, you know, going out partying? And so we thought we'd go and join them, and there we were in a dark warehouse with a few flashing lights. And I guess from there on, we decided that we ought to bring the rest of that to the rest of the country. Take that influence that we'd seen in London and from what we'd seen in Spain and try and start it for ourselves.
I could spend 2 hours on the phone on a Saturday afternoon and phone my key strategic person in each major town and city in England and Wales, fully confident that hours later convoys of people would be converging to the meeting points. We never told anybody where the party was actually going to be. We'd have timed the drive from all the meeting points to where the venue was, so that we could phone through the directions to each meeting point at the right time, so all these convoys were converging at the same time. And the idea being that as long as we got 2,000 people into the building, it was a fait accompli, and we'd end up negotiating with the police as concerned members of the public. No, you know, the guys who were doing the party have already done a run with the money mate, but, you know, we are here and we are responsible people, and, you know, we'd like to show 2 of you round and to see that it's a secure and safe building, because, you know, people's welfare was always paramount to us, you know.
I wanted people to see a stage set, and I wanted it to be choreographed, and I wanted it to be like going to see your favourite bands when you go to see them. I wanted people to see something and just be so dazzled by the visual side of it.
I think if we hadn't have taken the risks that we took then to put these events on, it would have stayed in nightclubs till 2 o'clock. It wouldn't have expanded in the way it did.
At number 5, it's another stateside classic, this time from the godfather of house himself, Mr. Frankie Knuckles. He's remixed artists like the Jacksons and Tony Braxton, and is still in demand as a DJ all over the world. Here he is with his classic dance anthem, Tears.
'89, my favourite track, gotta be Tears, Frankie Knuckles. Such a wicked male vocal, such a vocal haunting tune.
I'm a real good actor. This is a heavy role.
I was booked to go play a series of dates in Japan, and that's when I met Satoshi, and we became friends. And so by the time I got back to New York, we stayed in contact with each other, and we managed to write that piece of music over the phone.
I did Tears out of my bedroom. I put that on the cassette and bring that to New York.
I started playing at this club I was playing at in New York at the time called The World, and everyone thought it was really, really beautiful. And when we decided that we were definitely going to release it, there was
quite a buzz about it, and everyone, you know, was bidding for it. I thought it was fine as an instrumental, but I was told a song needed to be written to it. So I called Satoshi up in Japan and I asked him, of all the singers in the world, if you could hear one person sing this song, who would it be? His answer was Robert Owens, which was easy, because I was really afraid. I'm thinking, oh my God, he's going to ask for someone really, really enormous, and it's going to be difficult to get them. But he asked for Robert Owens, and I thought, okay, well, that's simple, because Robert's an old friend of mine from Chicago.
They had developed this, you know, energy that you couldn't find nowhere else in America. So it was special.
When we first spoke about it, that collectively, Satoshi, myself, and Robert, what does it feel like? It's saying to you, and that was it. Tears, like it makes you want to cry because it's so beautiful. And it turned out really, really well, better than I expected it to.
Step back and look in my eyes. I've been crying, girl. Can't you see? Oh, girl. They're dripping and dropping and dropping and dripping and dripping and dropping and dropping and dripping and dripping and dropping and dropping and dripping and dripping and dropping and dropping and dripping.
Looped up the part of the chorus, just the dripping and dropping bit, not the chorus, but it was a little tiny segment of it. Based the mix around that. It was never ever meant to come out. It was just something exclusive to play out DJing. And it was weird, wasn't it? Everyone kind of phoned up and said, oh, can we have one?
When Full Intentions, we did Tears last year. You know, when I heard about it, I was like, oh, okay. And then when I heard the mix, I was completely blown away.
I think if it's a classic record, it will never die anyway. I dare say someone will probably remix it in 10 years.
And part of what was quite subversive about Frankie Knuckles' Tears, it wasn't just this yearning, amazing record. It had this chorus about the tears which were dripping and dropping and dropping and dripping, but it just sounded like tripping and dropping. So all the clubbers used to love that naughty reference in it.
That's it for part 2, but join me after the break for my final 4 favourites here on the Dance Years. Hi, you're watching the Dance Years, and this is 1989. Well, while the house scene was ripping it up across Britain, in North London they were dancing to a different beat. Along came Soul to Soul with their own R&B style club night, a unique sound, and even their own clothing range. With production from Jazzy B and Nelly Hooper and Karen Wheeler on vocals, this tune remains as fresh and funky now as the day it was first cut.
Back to life, back to reality, back to life, back to reality, back to life, back to reality, back to the here and now, yeah. Show me how, decide what you want from me. Tell me maybe I could be there for you.
Back to Life came out, and it was massive, and it was nice taking back this brand new single 12-inch of Soul to Soul, which was a fresh sound. And you know, me and Frankie Knuckles were the first American DJ to take it back home and play this new down-tempo kind of thing. So England really, the UK influenced me a whole lot.
Such a funky tune, just had that bass rolling, and everywhere you went they were playing it. It was just a brilliant tune.
When Back to Life came out in 1989, that absolutely amazed me as a record. It was such a catchy tune. I never got sick of hearing it. You know, incredible beats, amazing vocals, And it was so great that a tune like that would get to #1, something that's been sequenced and it's been programmed and had newer production methods that people still weren't used to apply to it, and a great vocal as well. So it really did encapsulate so much that was going on and move it forward as well.
Sold sorry to have a shop in Camden Market, and I remember going down the stairs one day expecting Jazzy V to be stood behind the till selling me a t-shirt, and shattered all my illusions. But Back to Life was just a great track which just still sticks in my mind today.
Huge funky dreads t-shirt that was like a dress that came down to my knees that I insisted looked cool, even though it obviously didn't.
Extended dancing sessions in muddy fields were hardly the place for fashion victims. Nevertheless, rave generated its own unique look, which usually placed comfort well above style.
Everyone was wearing smiley faces t-shirts, badges, kicker boots, wallabies. That was quite in at that point. I can't believe I used to wear shell suits. Hair greased back, all greased back, into a little ponytail.
I used to rave with this t-shirt saying "Fuck the police." It was an NWA t-shirt, luminous, bright colours, awful. And I used to love t-shirts like that and just be completely bandanaed up and stuff.
Bandanas.
There's bandanas, we all done it. Wallabies.
Tracksuit pants, Timberland boots, anything really that will get you noticed. People wore.
Lurid, all over prints in the most wonderful coordinated colours one could imagine. Bright lime with orange over an acid lemon with a, you know.
Fluorescent was really, really in because of the UV light. And lots of silver.
You just catered for what you was going to get up to, which is probably 4 days without sleeping or eating.
Pink caftans, ponytails on top of my head.
What's I wearing?
Dungarees, I suppose.
Dungarees with the high.
Dungarees.
To wear like fluorescent t-shirts and big E's that illuminated under UV
Do you remember
lights.
Can You Feel It?
Yeah.
The E t-shirt, that was great.
Anything went.
At #3, we find a guy called Gerald. Ex-808 State member Gerald Simpson fell out with the other lads over unpaid royalties, but soon had a hit to call his own, so he's not bitter, especially after this smashed into the top 20.
The earliest tune I can remember really loving was something my auntie got me into, which was called Voodoo Ray, which was huge for me. I used to love that song.
When Voodoo Ray was released, which was a seminal record, absolutely mind-blowing, and I craved it. I had to hear that record.
A guy called Gerald's Voodoo Ray is still a classic that stood the test of time. In fact, when I started working at MTV, Each pop video had a, a cart number attached to it, and that is practically tattooed on my brain, CH75845.
Raves were a new experience for DJs as well as dancers. As I remember from my raving days, being behind the decks didn't mean you missed out on all the madness.
I would just remember standing in the middle of a tent, in the middle of a field, in the middle of nowhere, just thinking, what is going on here?
I remember climbing up scaffolding once that was about 50 foot high to DJ in the sky over thousands of people, and it was just like, oh my God.
When you're DJing, you just look out and you just see this sea of people, happy faces, just loving it and, going for it. It's the most wonderful feeling.
It was a fantastic night. Everything was going well. And then I managed to climb on top of this huge speaker. But whilst getting up, I accidentally got my foot caught underneath some wires, and the whole of the sound system went down, and it was dead for like 5 minutes. Now, 5 minutes in a rave or a party is an extremely long time. It's a lifetime when people are on one. So I made a quick exit.
I think the most common problem really was the sound going down, because generators would run out, or they'd have to change generators in the middle of DJs playing, which sounds bizarre, but when you're in a field, that's how you're running a sound system,
There'd be people on stage who I'd heard the tracks, didn't know what they looked like, and I'd think, you're God to me right now. You are, and I think, how are you here? How are you here in the same place as me, playing that tune, and you're not on TV all the time, you're not a millionaire or whatever. And it turns out that they were just people like me.
I think the interaction with the DJs and the crowd was incredible. I think that the way that things were run was just such bizarre, unorganised chaos that seemed to just fall into place, and everyone had a brilliant time.
At number 2 is a song fondly remembered for its famously sexy sample of a woman having an orgasm. Banned by the BBC, the song became a massive word-of-mouth hit and made Little Louis big news across the world. It can only be French Kiss.
First time I played it out, basically like hundreds of people kind of was like, wow, what is he going on with? Is there something wrong with the turntables or something? So I kind of, this is like big memory on the track,
I remember being at a sunrise party, and it was astonishing to hear French Kiss in that sort of scenario with 11,000 people. I think it was probably the biggest ever party ever held in Britain at that time, and of course totally illegal.
It's a very sexy record. Its roots, to me, it's totally related to Serge Gainsbourg. Je t'aime. To me, they're like the same record, but just out of different times.
Phenomenal. Started this trend of fast record, breakdown, fast. But it was sexy, it stunk of sex, it aggravated people to the point like, this is obscene. The record got banned, and I had so much respect for Little Louis, because I remember going to a World Disco Mix Championships, a scratch DJ competition, and they did an award show. And this was such a hip-hop event, but
they gave the award to whatever best producer or remixer to Little Louis, and he got booed to hell, but then he just stood up there and went, "I was born house and I will die house."
By the end of '89, raves were making major headlines and major money. But for many, the innocence and idealism of the early parties had been lost as the scene became increasingly commercialised.
I mean, at first it was like raves were like, 1,000 people, and, gradually it got these huge, humongous do's in fields. It took on a different kind of vibe, really.
At a certain point, it started to get very money orientated. They were charging like £1.40 for a bottle of water. They were fairground rides and they were ridiculous prices. So that whole kind of sort of peaceful aspect went out the door quite quickly when people started to realise they could make a lot of money out of it.
It was bound to sort of get organised at some point. But I think the freshest ones were just little warehouse things that we used to do on a sort of weekly basis.
There was one particular event which was like a huge 30,000 rave in a field, and we'd taken 2 of our acts down there to perform, and when the gig was finished we went to collect our money, and the promoters basically wouldn't pay us, and they threatened to kind of have me killed, and they said they were going to like put me in a hole in the field and all this sort of stuff. So at that point you realised, okay, this is not about partying anymore. It got very kind of scary.
I didn't like raves at all. I really didn't see the point of them. I still don't. The thought of going in the middle of a field and all, getting down, just appalls me.
Tintin, my partner, was just like always wanted the best DJs and the biggest sound system, the most amazing lasers. And it did actually mean that Energy sort of topped the ranks of doing the best events.
People walking around on stilts, fairground rides, all sorts of things started to get introduced.
If we just opened those doors, we're charging people £20, £25 to go in, and all they got was a sound system and a DJ, I think we'd have been selling them short.
Really Sunrise and ourselves really put the price up and put on a much bigger show. And what tended to happen is everyone else put the price up to follow us, but didn't put the show on.
£10 in, at a farmer's gate, paying some burly lad from Swanley or somewhere. And it's like, you pay him to walk up the farmer's track and say, hang on, this is the cow tunnel where I walk the dog. And it's like they've set up this wall of speakers, which is quite impressive, at one end of a tunnel with all these lights. And that was it, and it's just like the biggest bass bin you've ever been in. Just absolutely sort of stomach churning, and it's good music and that, but it was a lot of money at the time.
I was definitely in it for the money.
So here it is, the #1 dance track of 1989, and what a hit it was. 6 weeks at #1, 22 weeks on the chart, and selling over 800,000 copies in the UK alone. And you've got to look out for the dodgy lip sync in the video as well. I wonder who was really singing that, but who cares? The summer of '89 belonged to Black Box, and rightfully so. Here's Right on Time.